Okay, Brian. All right, thanks, Brian, and welcome everyone to this August 12, 2024 meeting of the Homewood City Council. We've got an announcement tonight about a stormwater management plan. So Mr. Smith is going to fill us in on that before we get started.
Thank you, Mr. President. So each year, Jefferson County Department of Health, SWMA, the Stormwater Management Authority, issues a new and revised stormwater management program plan. So it's an annual thing, and this is the announcement that it will be advertised for 2 weeks on our website, and then that will conclude the end of the advertisement period that's required by them. Yep, here you go.
So you can go in and fill out this is a public comment period.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. With that announcement done, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And we're going to start tonight with an invocation from Counselor Smith, and that'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone will please stand.
If you'll bow your heads and pray with me. Dear God, we acknowledge the need for your presence in our midst. Grant us the humility to reset our own agendas and place them at your feet. Bring peace and understanding to our hearts and our minds. Help us to let go of pride and selfishness so that we can serve our city and our neighbors with love and compassion. We invite your peace to fill this space and to fill our hearts. In your mighty and matchless name we pray. Amen.
Everyone face the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Smith. All right, Mr. Sechrist, if you will please call roll.
Yes, sir. Councilor Walden. Gear.
Here.
Holloman.
Here.
Wolverton.
Here.
Sims.
Here.
Jones. Smith.
Here.
Nelms.
Here.
Andrus.
Here.
Harden. Here. President White.
Here. All right, so we've got 10 tonight. Next on the agenda is the reading of the minutes from our council meeting of July 22nd, 2024. Those have previously been distributed. I'd entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of those minutes and for approval of the same.
So moved. Second.
Motion for Mr. Wolverton, second for Mr. Gwaltney. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are approved 10-0. Next, we have board vacancies. Just a reminder on this, we've got an HEC position for Ward 4 that closes on the 26th at 4:30. So if anyone knows anyone interested in that, please let them know. We don't have any additions to the agenda tonight. So I would entertain a motion and a second for approval of the agenda as advertised.
So moved. Second.
Motion for Ms. Gear, second for Ms. Nelms. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is approved 10-0, which brings us to the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion and a second for approval of that agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion for Mr. Harden, second for Mr. Gwaltney. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved 10-0 as well, which brings us to old business. First item, 050724, request to authorize the mayor to sign new uniform supplier contract with Cintas. It's brought to us by Blake Graves, our fleet maintenance director. And we'll start with a report from finance. Ms. Smith, are you reporting on finance?
I am. The committee met last week and heard from Blake Graves, and we voted 5-0 to recommend approving signing this new uniform contract with Cintas. Mr. Graves told us that it will indeed provide a savings to the city. The motion was made by myself and seconded by Councilor Gwaltney.
All right, so we have a motion from finance. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is approved 10-0 and will be resolution 2493. Next item, 060724, request for consideration of fiscal year 23-24 budget amendments. It's brought to us by Judith Wright and Cale Smith. And another report from finance, Ms. Smith.
Yes, committee met last week, voted 5-0 to recommend approving a $22,000 transfer for the library and a $10,000 transfer from traffic engineering to engineering services for Mr. Smith. The committee also referred part of the library item about speed bumps back to the Public Safety Committee to be discussed there. The motion was made by Mr. Alleman and seconded by Mr. Gwaltney.
All right, so we have another motion from finance. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any Any opposed? And that is also 10-0 and will be Resolution 2494. Next item, 090724, request to authorize the mayor to sign supplemental agreement with AlDOT for Central Avenue TAP project, brought to us by Cale Smith, and another report from Finance, Ms. Smith.
Yes, committee met and heard from Mr. Smith. We're going to be lengthening slightly the distance of this new, the trail, and that requires an addendum to the agreement with AlDOT. So we voted 5-0 to recommend approving signing that agreement, and the motion was made by myself and seconded by Counselor Alamon.
All right, so another motion from Finance. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved 10-0 and will be Resolution 2495. Next item, 040724, request to consider a loading zone on St. Charles Street, brought to us by Counselor Gwaltney. And we're going to start with a report from Public Safety. Mr. Gwaltney.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The committee met last week and voted 5-0 to recommend approval of this item. The motion was made by Counselor Wolverton and seconded by Counselor Nelms.
All right, so we have, just for clarification, we've got two ordinances here, one dealing with the loading zone and one dealing with the no parking zone. So I think we're going to do the loading zone first. Mr. Kinnick, will you give us the first reading?
Yes, sir. This is an ordinance to amend the section 19-32 entitled Loading Zones of Division 1 entitled Generally of Article 2 entitled Stopping, Standing, and Parking of Chapter 19 entitled Traffic of the Code of Ordinances and to provide penalties for the violation thereof. Section 19-32 is amended to read as follows. Loading zones, definition. As used in this ordinance and the Code of Ordinances of the city, the following terms shall have the following meanings. Loading zone. A loading zone is that space adjacent to a curb or public property reserved for exclusive use of vehicles actively engaged in loading or unloading of materials, freight, or passengers, as designated by an ordinance or posted signage designating such location to be known as the loading zone. A loading zone shall be reserved for use by vehicles in loading and unloading passengers and commodities as designated in the ordinance or the posted signage. Limited use of loading zones for loading purposes shall be restricted to periods of time not in excess of 30 minutes by any vehicle unless otherwise provided by ordinance. Section 2, it be unlawful for any person, firm, or corporation to permit or cause to permit a motor vehicle, motorcycle, or other motorized vehicles as defined by the Highway Code of the State of Alabama on along the loading zone designated by ordinance or signage posted by the Chief of Police within the City of Homewood. Section C, the Chief of Police shall be authorized to designate any location in the city as a loading zone by posting signage at the location, designating such location to be a loading zone, and may designate on the posted signage any restrictions relating to days of the week or times of day that such location shall be used exclusively as a loading zone. If such loading zone designation is restricted to any times other than at all times and all days of the week. Section 2, that the City Council does by the adoption of this ordinance designate a portion of 18th Street which lies 75 feet south of the intersection of 18th Street with the southern boundary line of said certain alley which runs parallel to 29th Avenue and 28th Avenue South. A loading zone is defined, which will be restricted to every day of the week except Sunday and holidays between the hours of 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. for stays no longer than 30 minutes. Section 3, the City Council does by adoption this ordinance designate the current entrance off of 19th Street South to the plaza in front of the City Hall and adjacent 19th Street South in the city as a loading zone is defined by the ordinance. It shall be permitted motor vehicles to temporarily load such vehicles, load to unload at that location for a period not in excess of 15 minutes. Section 4, the City Council does by adoption of this ordinance designate the eastern portion of St. Charles Street, which lies from a point 30 feet north of the intersection of St. Charles and Octomore Road for a distance of 50 feet as depicted in Exhibit A as a loading zone as defined by this ordinance. Section 5, that a violation of any section of this ordinance shall constitute a misdemeanor, and any person, firm, or corporation found guilty shall be punished as provided by Section 1-8 of the Code of Ordinances. Section 6, that the Chief of Police shall erect or cause to be erected appropriate lines, markings, loading zone signs at the areas designated above or authorized by this ordinance. In Section 7, any ordinance in conflict with the provision of this ordinance is specifically repealed. Section 8, the provision of this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its adoption by the City Council. In a memo or in my email to the Public Safety Committee, we had drafted a 2013 ordinance that created the loading zones and defined it, which is what I read for whatever reason, that's not been codified in our code of ordinances. So what I've done in this ordinance is essentially define the loading zone, as I've read to you, amend the code section that deals with loading zones in the city to cover the definition, and also to incorporate all of this, locations in the city that the city clerk was able to locate it that had previously defined loading zones in addition to the St. Charles, so they're all contained in one ordinance. So it might have been
All right.
a little longer than you anticipated.
We appreciate you cleaning it up. Thank you, Mr. Kendrick. All right, any questions or comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion and a second for unanimous consent.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Gear, second by Mr. Gwaltney, and a roll call vote, please, Mr. Segrist.
Yes, sir. Counselor Gwaltney?
Yes, sir.
Gear?
Yes.
Allemond?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Sims?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Nelms?
Yes.
Andrus?
Yes.
Harden?
Yes, sir.
President White?
Yes, all right, so that's 10-0, and we have the motion from Public Safety. So unless there are any other questions or comments, then, Mr. Segrist, if you'll please do another roll call vote.
Counselor Gwaltney?
Yes, sir.
Gear?
Yes.
Allemond?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Sims?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Nelms?
Yes.
Andrus?
Yes.
Harden?
Yes.
President White?
Yes, so that's also 10-0, and will be ordinance 2907. All right, now, I think we need to do one for the, no parking at St. Charles and Knoxmore, Mr. Kendrick?
Yes, sir. It's an ordinance to further regulate traffic in the city of Homewood on along a portion of St. Charles Street in the city and to provide penalties for the violation thereof. Be ordained as follows. It be unlawful for any person, firm, or corporation to park, cause to be parked, or permit to be parked any motor vehicle as defined by the Highway Code of the state of Alabama on along the western side of that portion of St. Charles Street between the entrance of the city public parking lot is depicted in Exhibit A. Section 2, that shall be unlawful for any person, firm, or corporation to cause to be parked motor vehicle within 30 feet of the intersection of St. Charles Street and the intersection of St. Charles with Oxmoor Road. Section 4, that a person violating this ordinance upon being found guilty shall be punished as provided by Section 1.8 of the Code of Ordinances. Section 4, the chief of police is authorized and directed to erect signs or markings referred to above. Section 5, if any part of provision or ordinance declared to be unconstitutional or invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction, all parts or provisions not otherwise affected shall remain in full force and effect. Section 6, the provision of ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its adoption by the city council or the mayors, otherwise becoming law.
All right, thank you very much. All right, any questions or comments from council? If not, I'd entertain a motion and a second for unanimous consent on this one.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Gwaltney, second from Mr. Allemond, and a roll call vote, please, Mr. Segrist.
Yes, sir. Counselor Gwaltney?
Yes, sir.
Gear?
Yes.
Allemond?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Sims?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Nelms?
Yes.
Andrus?
Yes.
Harden?
Yes.
President White?
Yes, all right, so that is 10-0, and we have the motion from Public Safety on this one as well. So no questions or comments, we'll do another roll call vote, please.
Counselor Gwaltney?
Yes, sir.
Gear?
Yes.
Allemond?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Sims?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Nelms?
Yes.
Andrus?
Yes.
Harden?
Yes.
President White?
Yes, all right, so that's also 10-0, and will be ordinance number 2908. Next item, 070724, request for permission to construct a sidewalk within the right-of-way at 27th Avenue South. It's brought to us by Cale Smith and Matt Hogan of Sane and Associates. One quick thing before we go to the report from Public Works. The item says sidewalk, but I think what we decided in the meeting was, based on what they told us, that it's really just a ramp.
I called it the cart path.
Cart path, great. So we did have that clarification in committee, so just wanted to point that out. Mr. Wolverton, if you got a report from Public Works.
Yes, the committee voted 5-0 to recommend approval pending proper indemnification agreement, and the motion was made by Councilor Harden and seconded by Councilor Gear.
All right, so we have a motion from Public Works. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved 10-0, and will be resolution 2496, which brings us to the committee referral agenda. Would entertain a motion and a second for approval of that agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Nelm, second by Ms. Andrus. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved 10-0, which brings us to other new business. First item, 180824, request for consideration of an ABC 150 special retail 30 days or less license for Corbo Wine Bar at the Edge. This is brought to us by Bo Sechrist, our Assistant City Clerk. Mr. Gwaltney, I think we have a approval from the fire department, but not the police yet on this one?
Yes, sir, that's correct. The fire department has approved use of the outdoor space only, and we're pending the background checks from Homewood Police.
All right.
So I would make a motion for approval, pending approval by HPD. And,
All right, so we've got a motion from Mr. Gwaltney and a second from Mr. Alaman. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is 10-0, having no objection, contingent on the police department. And the next item, 190824, request for consideration of an ABC 160 special retail more than 30 days license for the same location. This one we're waiting on both, is that right?
Yeah, I think the way it was written, they were waiting for the interior, and I had some questions. I wanted to determine why it's a special retail greater than 30, not an on-premise, off-premise, or on-premise license. I think it's 130.
You want to carry it over?
Yeah, so let's carry.
Okay,
that one over.
we'll carry it.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Come on up.
Hi.
Hi.
Would you mind signing in for us? please?
Sure, of
Thank
course.
you.
I'm John Martin, this is my wife Mary Martin. We're one of the owners of Corbo Wine Bar.
What questions can we answer?
Tell us why this is a special retail license rather than an on-premise license.
The reason why is because there was no license under ABC that actually encompasses what we do, because we're covering the whole area of the Edge, and we do sell wine only retail. So we do have bottled wines in there, and we do sell wine retail to take away. So the only license that fit where we could still have children in, because it is a family area, well, it was a 160. The ABC described it, the best way to describe it is what a hotel has. They can take wine up to their room,
They can buy bottles.
They
So,
can buy-
so the license is good for the entire Edge property, not just your portion of the
Correct.
Edge
Correct.
property. Got it.
it allows them to carry it around the Edge in the gated
In
area.
the gated area.
Right.
Good. And your liquor liability insurance will cover all outside of your premise as well?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay, perfect.
We
Thank
had to
you.
submit that to them and show them what it was.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Just to clarify, we were actually there last night. There's not really going to be an inside, this is more of a walk-up window, or is there an inside space to sit and?
The 150 is for the outdoor location, just until we can open the inside. Our interior is still under construction. We're hoping to be
Okay.
open mid-September.
But eventually, you're going to have an interior as well.
Eventually,
So there will
full
be
restaurant, entrees,
Gotcha.
full bar, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Mr. President, I would make a motion for approval, pending approval by fire for interior use, and no objection from Homewood Police.
All right, so we've got a motion from Mr. Gwaltney, a second, is it Mr. Alaman? From Mr. Alaman? Do you have a question? Okay. All right, any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is 10-0, having no objection.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, last item, 200824, request for consideration of approval of vouchers for the period of July 23, 2024 through August 12, 2024, brought to us by J.J. Bischoff. Ms. Smith?
Yes. Walter actually reviewed the invoices. He did have several that he pulled out for questions, but I believe he got all of those resolved. So I would make a motion to approve the invoices for the period of July 23rd through August the 12th.
All right, so we have a motion from Ms. Smith. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gwaltney. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is approved 10-0 and will be resolution 2497, which brings us to the end of the agenda tonight. Mr. Mayor, you have anything? All right. Let me do this.
referral.
Yeah, so
agenda.
that's, all we do tonight is send it to committee. So it'll be heard, so we'll deal with it in committee next Monday, and then it will come back once the committee sends it back out. Tonight, all that happens is that it goes to committee. So, sorry, I'm sorry you showed up, but yeah, we'll discuss it in committee next Monday. We're about to set the committees for next Monday night. All right, just to give everyone a little bit of a heads up, first up, it isn't gonna affect what we're about to set, but, I was trying to look ahead because of Labor Day. Actually, Mr. Smith's gone. We have 5 Mondays in Labor Day. 5 Mondays in September, so we're gonna be good. We'll just shift everything down a week. So, no problems there. All right, we won't have to double up.
So
All right,
The council meetings will be on the 16th and 30th?
correct. All right, Mr. Gwaltney.
I have no comments, however, I will set public safety immediately following finance next Monday, the 19th.
All right, thank you. Ms. Gear.
No announcements, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alman.
My microphone has more comments than I do. No, just saying that I got to visit the EFG today. It's really nice developments coming along nicely and excited for what it'll bring to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wolverton.
Yeah, I will second that. We went last night. I guess I didn't realize that they have got a giant big screen. I think it's gonna be a great space for events, and there were a bunch of, our kids included, but a bunch of other kids that we were familiar with, and they were all running around burning off some steam on the green space while we waited for meals, and we tried a little bit of everything, so all of it was delicious. I do have one item, it looks like.
Yep.
Is that right? So we'll set that for after Public Works, or Public Safety, I mean.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sims, bless you.
I don't have any comments, thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Smith.
Homewood Historic Preservation Commission meeting is tomorrow night here on the 4th floor at 7 p.m. And I will set special issues to follow Public Works. And that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Nelms.
I don't have anything tonight.
All right, Ms. Andrews.
I do not need to set P&D, and that is all I have tonight.
Mr. Harden.
No comment tonight.
Wow, flying through these. All right, I don't have any either. So we will see everyone in a couple weeks. We're adjourned.